This argument about, you mentioned there's a fever dream on the left and the right. I want to make one thing clear. Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that now we're going to have more free speech or whatever it is he's trying to say. This is not a pendulum swing. This is not the weather vane. Certainly, I do believe the man is just bending the knee to whatever power structure he sees. But if we were actually going to see a pendulum swing in the other direction, they would keep the fact-checking program, ban the liberal news outlets, and only allow conservative outlets to fact-check posts on Facebook.
Tim Pool destroys an entire panel of woke idiots on Piers Morgan show. Let's watch all of this together.
But Mark Zuckerberg blatantly admitted that both Facebook and the FBI interfered in the 2020 election on the Joe Rogan Experience. And, for all of the news coverage, and to some degree rightfully so over the last 4 years about January 6th, about some of Trump's claims of the election that him and his lawyers were really never able to demonstrate at all. But how about that admission that the FBI came and told Facebook, be prepared for a Russian dump that's coming soon. And then when the laptop came out, you have 50 plus intelligence officers signing on to this letter saying that this is the Russian disinformation. And he admitted to censoring people for that. This is like blatant election interference by the FBI and one of the biggest tech companies out there. I mean, I would think if you're going to reverse that, it would also come along with like an apology and some admission of what you were a part of. He says he created the site to give people a voice. You robbed your fellow Americans of their voice in a very important, crucial point in American history.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was a New York Post columnist at the time that all went down with their exclusive on Hunter Biden's laptop, which turned out to be a completely genuine story, and certainly wasn't Russian disinformation. And the way that all played out was quite extraordinary and pretty terrifying to see that the New York Post.
Well, although, guys, come on, look, tech companies make mistakes the way publishing companies make.
But that wasn't a mistake, Cara, was it? I mean, it wasn't a.
Well, no, hang on.
One point.
How does this lady not understand a simple point? If the FBI steered platforms during an election story, that's not just tech drama. That's government actors shaping who gets heard on the day votes matter. That's the fulcrum of the whole free speech argument. I mean, this woman is a leftist, and normally they are just rebellious against all the big corporations and big billionaires. Then why the hell is she giving Mark Zuckerberg a side in this argument? I mean, that's exactly why I call them woke idiots, because they are really idiots.
But it's not free speech. It's not a government institution. Companies do that. Disney didn't put out a movie in China because the Chinese.
It doesn't make it right, though, does it?
Of course not. But it's not, you're equating Facebook. You're equating Facebook or Twitter with the government. It is not a public square.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
To be very clear, I certainly was not. Listen, I was not equating Facebook and the FBI, and I think it is reasonable to point out that a lot of these big tech companies were under duress really since Donald Trump won in 2016. All the heads were hauled in front of Congress and threatened up and down if they didn't get this misinformation problem under control. But is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation?
Here's what I'm saying,
and then realized it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Our government should be talking. Go ahead.
Tim, no, let Cara finish her point, then I'll bring you in, Tim.
The government should constantly be talking to lots of companies because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran, Russia. You can't pretend that China's not all up in our grill. You just can't. You just can't. And there should be discussions between government and companies. They're going to occur. By the way, they've been occurring since the beginning of time, way back when, go watch Oppenheimer. There's discussions happening all the time on all levels between companies. The question is, what is pressure and what is important discussions that these companies, because they are at the nexus of all these information systems.
Free speech is a principle. When we say that Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever platform is silencing free speech, we are not talking about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects multiple rights, of which one of those is free speech. So this constant conflation of a private company isn't violating your First Amendment. I'm not going to bring up the First Amendment. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go on a platform, I'm going to express my ideas and share news, and if they silence me, they are violating my free speech.
This is what's really going on. Mark moves to neutrality not because of conscience, but because the market and political winds shifted. Yes, platforms are private, but when they act as the public square, their censorship feels like losing free speech. That feeling fuels political polarization. It's not a legal phrase they broke, it's our ability to be heard. But after all this, we have Tim Pool bringing up a really interesting point.
Numerous outlets on the right made attempts to get access through Pointer to the fact-checking system. They were denied that. So now, once again, what do we see? Real quick, too, another point. Back to the First Amendment issue. I just want to add, the government had backdoors into X and Facebook where we actually got to click the link and go to the login portal for the federal government to go into Facebook to flag posts. And there was an instance where if you said the name Eric Charamella on YouTube or Facebook, your post would be inexplicably deleted. And everybody knew that was happening. And this is Real Clear Politics that it broke the reporting on Eric Charamella. So what we're looking at since Elon took over Twitter and turned it into X, we have consistently seen a dominant liberal or Democrat Party bias on these platforms. And when the problem is, quote unquote, resolved, you get neutrality. There's been no circumstance where we have seen a right bias or a conservative bias or a pendulum swing in the other direction. So Mark Zuckerberg right now is declaring neutrality. He's not actually swearing fealty or kissing the pinky ring of Trump.
Well, fascinating.
Are you kidding me?
Dean,
Wait a second.
over to you.
I mean, the idea that what Mark Zuckerberg is doing is part of the plutocracy. It is part of the oligarchy. They're going down there and giving $1 million each to Donald Trump, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos. You have Elon Musk, who's been the biggest oligarch of all. They are bending the knee. They're doing whatever he wants. And I wish that on the left and the right, we could put aside politics and say we need a system where big money is taken out and the power is given back to the people, to us. And then we can fight fairly on the issues without oligarchs spending millions and millions of dollars to corrupt our elections. And on the right, you don't like George Soros? Okay, let's ban his money as well. I'm fine with that. But Mark Zuckerberg, what he's doing is bending the knee because he is fearful. As Donald Trump said yesterday, maybe he's afraid because I threatened to put him in jail for his entire life. That's the big to protect our First Amendment. The guy who threatens Mark Zuckerberg with jail for the rest of his life. A guy who threatened ABC and CBS. A man who threatened Donald Trump Saturday Night Live. He wanted the comedy show canceled. So he is not a bastion of free speech. He is a strongman leader, a potential dictator, and they fear him, but they're about making money. So Mark Zuckerberg now is changing these rules and putting Dana White on, Trump's big buddy, on the board at Meta.
Why did Zuckerberg change? Was he scared or smart? It's the market. Elon shifted the game and suddenly the boardrooms moved. Platforms follow dollars and users, not virtue signaling. Just to the people who don't know what's going on, basically Mark Zuckerberg simply came up and said that there will be no censorship and we will respect everyone's free speech. But I don't think that Mark really did it because he was an advocate of free speech. He simply just saw where the market is going, especially things happening like Elon Musk buying Twitter to protect free speech. Basically, they just realized that if we want to make billions of more dollars, we just got to do what's good for users and what creates good, positive feelings in our investors and stockholders. Look, this isn't about left or right. It's about who gets to decide what you hear on the day that matters. When private platforms act like public squares and the government gets a backdoor, we lose more than likes. We lose our say. So demand transparency, demand guardrails, and most importantly, demand that power answers to people, not profit. If you want more breakdowns like this, hit subscribe. We make the complicated stupid simple. I'll see you in the next one. Remember, they can silence posts, but they can't silence people who show up.